Oh, sorry about the slight hiccup with the recording. We'll continue from where we left off. For those who are just listening on YouTube as well, happy Guru Purnima. It's a very special time. So definitely, reach out to your guru and express your gratitude. So what I wanted to connect today on, at least to start with, is this Dunning-Kruger effect, which everybody really goes through. When you come across a new subject matter, any subject matter, but let's say Vedanta for now, everyone goes through a very quick learning curve, especially let's say if you've studied an introductory text such as Tattvabodha. There will be a you know number of concepts, number of ideas and categorical teachings that one will come across. You'll come across these definitions: what is mithya, what is atma, what is satyam, what is chit, what is anandam, what is blah 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 blah, all of these different things. And as one is exposed to these different concepts, our confidence level really grows, because I've heard some people say, like, within a couple of weeks, myself included, that now I understand Vedanta. I understand Vedanta. Now I know Vedanta. Everything that there is to know, it's really well understood, and I am the master of the universe. So this, this often translates as status messages where people put Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi and all of these things. We've turned Vedanta into buzzwords. We've turned Mahavakya into a, a, a fragment of pop culture. And then we cite these things, we discuss things to people, we proselytize. And there's a sort of a missionary zeal that accompanies our sense of having conversations with people. Sometimes it can also lead to an arrogance that, oh, because I understand, because these concepts have been so well understood, therefore the bulk of the work is done. And so that's really the peak of Mount Stupid. And as with any peak, they say the greater the rise, the bigger the fall. And so, especially in terms of Vedanta, then what happens in life is that you will come across people who know a lot more, or even worse, if it's even what's more painful, is coming across life experiences which deflate that ego. Vedanta, the goal of Vedanta is mukti. And yet, every event that transpires in life feels like a slap in the face. And so, what has happened to mukti at that point? And so, slowly and steadily, one begins to descend downwards from Mount Stupid, which is really the peak of, arrogance, the peak of, I guess, the, the sense that one equates exposure to knowledge. And so, we are all exposed to Vedanta, but knowledge is a very different thing. Um, I'll give some context of it in a conversation, because now I think even my daughter Ambika has reached a certain age where I can start discussing things a little bit more seriously, and in bringing some nuance into categories as opposed to good versus bad and whatnot. So the other day, like, we were in the car, and she was asking me something about himsa, like, related to violence, because there was an incident I posted about actually on social media, really, that we were in the car, and um, one of our friends, we were returning home from karate class, and so a friend of ours was accompanying us, and he spoke about, like, how he saw a cockroach and he wanted to step on it. And so I sort of exclaimed that, yeah, why would you want to step on a cockroach? Why would you do that? And so he said that, yeah, my dad does it too. And then Ambika, she can be a smart ass at times. And so she's like, we shouldn't step on cockroaches. They are our friends. We should pick them up and throw them out. And of course, that was a moment of great pride, because I mentioned elsewhere that I've made a lot of mistakes, but like these small things, I try to teach, and we uh, tend to serve as examples for children to emulate. So that was a very good, proud moment. But then we had this conversation, because I was speaking with her, and she said that we know that we are not supposed to, like, hurt creatures. Then why do people hurt creatures? Because it is common sense. Like, why should you cause pain to some living being when you can just as well handle it a little less violently? You just pick it up and throw it up. And so that's when I was trying to explain to her the distinction between understanding and knowledge. So understanding means exposure. For example, I can say some of us in this satsanga understand Vedanta a little bit, in different degrees. Okay. Suppose you ask me to speak on Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, I think I can do a decent job explaining those Lakshana, Atma Lakshana. But still, there are moments in my life when I'm caught up with a lot of despair. I get despondent. I get upset. Today, I remember an incident when I got really angry. I have, everybody has daddy issues and mom issues and this issue and that. We have these issues. I have these issues, definitely. And so that means that knowledge actually hasn't taken place yet, truthfully. And this is not to say that knowledge is a binary. Knowledge is a steady progression. It's a building of conviction. It's a building of nishtha. Folks, if everyone who's on the call, if you can just get on the camera, that'd be wonderful. So, okay, so coming back to that, and that's because it's a requirement, sort of like, join since I got on time and uh, show your faces. So, thank you. So now when we talk about nishtha, nishtha is a very special word. Nishtha means firmness or conviction in something. When we talk about knowledge of Vedanta, knowledge refers to only that which is well assimilated, which means that if Vedanta Jnanam is there is no room left for despondency. If Vedanta Jnanam is there is no room left for any sort of reaction that lasts longer than a given period of time. So this is not to say that a person will be a complete. एक second, Ambika, you can sit here. Sit here if you want. Quietly, okay? This doesn't mean that there is absolutely no room for emotions to play out. But what this actually implies is that, just as, one is, there's famous example that we've all seen, that there are three surfaces upon which you can draw your initials. One is you can carve it onto a rock or on a tree trunk, and it stays there for a very long time. The second is you can draw some lines in the sand, and it stays there until the next gust of wind, and then it will slowly fade away. And the third is that it is like lipi that you draw on the surface of water, which just comes and it goes. The latter is the mind of a jnani, that the reactions don't really stay for very long, but rather the reactions come. There may be a certain output as a consequence of whatever input it was that triggered an individual, but it fades away almost immediately. So the way Pujya Swamiji says, he puts it very beautifully, and this is why again, so much gratitude to these teachers, because they've done such a they've presented this teaching in such a visceral manner. So he says that, okay, imagine that in front of you suddenly there's your entire house just is set alight in flames. And then typically the normal reaction of people is what? But then Pujya Swamiji says that what is okay, provided shortly it is followed by so what. And this is really what indicates that Jnana Nishtha has taken place. Because as to the degree that I identify with my body, mind, sense complex, there will of course be different degrees of identification, and those degrees will be directly proportional to the amount of knowledge that has been well assimilated, if that makes sense. So Pujya Swamiji describes knowledge, Vedanta Jnanam, Mahavaka Jnanam, as the rising of the sun over the horizon. It's not an instant event. It's not like these pop cultural depictions where you see somebody sitting under a tree and I've attained enlightenment. That kind of nonsense doesn't happen. Jnana is a steady rising of the sun. It is a steady growth in nishtha, brahmanishtha, atmanishtha, and that is what jnana is. And so this, I guess, notion that we all have as we study Vedanta, that now I understand everything, therefore I know, must completely be demolished, as simply recognizing that now that I understand, I now need to know. And that brings a lot of humility. And that humility only comes with time, it comes with exposure to the teachings, it comes with Guru Seva, it comes with the life of Karma Yoga, Ishwar Arpana, Buddhi, all of these things. It's all part and parcel of the journey. So the reason I share this is because this Dunning-Kruger effect is very evident in conversations I've had with folks for the last, decade or so. And the biggest example of the Dunning-Kruger effect is myself. That, I started off literally, like, and this is not a joke. My first exposure to Vedanta happened late 2009, and by early 2010, I was presumptuous enough to think that I can start teaching people now. So, and then it took me almost a decade for that Dunning-Kruger effect to sort of wear out. I descended Mount Stupidity, and now I'm slowly climbing that growth curve again, where steadily in slow doses, nishtha happens. So that is the journey, and at some point we all have to confront ourselves and take and do an honest assessment of where we think we are. And I personally don't think I was in a very good place to make that assessment for myself. I don't think I am at a good place to even make that assessment for myself even now. And therefore, one leaves it to one's guru to make that assessment. Because the guru, like an expert teacher, understands the follies of a student even before the student is aware that there is a problem that's taking place. This could be in terms of our mental projections. Sorry, let me just close the door. One more. अंदर का ये disturbing place है, ज़्यादा आवाज़ नहीं कर, तो आवाज़ करो तुम. And quietly listen, come, and don't shout. Okay, so where was I? Yeah. So what ends up happening is that as we connect with the guru is able to draw up a blueprint of the shishya and understand exactly what the shishya's journey was like. For instance, when I communicate with my guru, I have a long standing relationship with the guru. The guru knows what my growth trajectory is. The guru knows what sadhanas I'm working on and what are some of the key opportunities that are still required, key strengths and key opportunities that are required for my growth. For instance, one of the things that my guru once said to me is that, Prashant, you are very expressive, and so it is good to be able to express yourself when you are sharing these things with other people, for instance, and that helps me in my own growth because it helps build greater conviction in myself as well. And then somebody else may have a different upadesha. One of my gurus told me that do satatam chintanam on this sadvastu, on the teaching. And so one takes these guru upadeshas very seriously, and one turns that into one's life's mission. One of the best ways that I've seen that a student can grow, because let's face it, all of us here have different aspirations in life. We are all connected here as grihasthas. We are not sannyasis. We have not 100% fully, we haven't fully committed to the teaching yet. There is still room for that. If the teaching were truly well well cooked, it the vairagya would dawn almost immediately, and we'd find a way to optimize our lifestyle in a manner that is fully conducive to reflecting upon the teaching. Right? So in the light of that, if you look at the guru, the sannyasi over here, who doesn't have any of these hang-ups that we do, family responsibilities. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, hang up, not in a bad way, but the fact that our mind is a little scattered right now. It has many things to deal with, whereas their single focus is knowledge. This is something that they revel in. They dwell in this knowledge day in and day out. It is something that occupies their minds 24/7. And therefore, they are acutely aware of another person's state as well when they encounter them. Just as, say, somebody in a class, let's say somebody who's mentoring another student in their class or who's a senior student is able to help guide somebody else on the path that they've originally worked on. So that, but notch that up multiple degrees, and that's what that's what you get as a guru. Multiple degrees beyond that. So now, the reason the Guru Upadesha is so important is because they have glanced at the teaching in a single flash. Whatever that there is in front of them is evident to them immediately. Whereas for us, our minds have to process the teaching, we have to think about it, we have to close our eyes, we have to contemplate upon it. They walk the talk in their entire in their entire life is focused on that singular, I won't call it goal because it's already accomplished. Okay, but it's focused, and it's or not even focused, but rather it is available as the vision that is unfolded in the Shastra. That is what their life is, what that is what they stand for. And that is why, like, again, given that it is Guru Purnima, I would still encourage the folks who don't have a guru that don't wait for too long. Because I know that every time I have consulted my own conscience and my own sense of, my own intellect, and tried to figure out, what are ways in which I can optimize my own study and my own Shishyatvam, I have either failed miserably or I have grown only slowly. But every time I've had a consultation with the teacher, they've set me right. They've, sort of corrected the lens through which I look at life, the lens through which I approach the teaching, the lens through which I look at myself. And that has had a very amplified benefit compared to what I can do for myself. So just a little bit of, you know, I guess, a preface to this satsanga before we get started. Any questions or thoughts here on what we've covered? Good. Okay. Then, Haji.
At what point do we realize that we are back on the growth curve? What is the realization that dawns suddenly, that humbles us, on the decline, and then you's like, oh, I'm starting to get better now? Oh,
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think, it's very peculiar to every individual's journey, because different people are on different categories of Mount Stupid, if that makes sense. One kind of Mount Stupid can be that, oh, I know everything now. What is there left to learn? The second one can be that, I know everything now, but even that understanding itself is misplaced, much less the knowledge. And there are so many errors because one is an error of understanding. I could have completely misunderstood, and yet I think I've understood it well. Second is, I could have completely understood it. It's possible. There are great vidwans who've completely understood, and yet they're not able to translate it into their demeanor. And that's because they have skipped a very important step of karma yoga. Not a step, but rather it's sort of going hand in hand with the teaching, which is that they've intellectualized this to the point where they feel that, Arey, Ishvara is also mithya, Jiva is also mithya, Jagat is also mithya, everything is mithya. And therefore, in some sense, they've turned this mithya into Satyam without actually dwelling upon the Satyam. Because they are focused on the wrong thing. Another category could also be that, oh, now I understand, but you know what? It's a little bit like eating food. You eat a meal, but then you need to have some hajmola to digest that meal afterwards. And what I said is completely wrong, because one doesn't need to. And Pujya Samji explains this fact. But some people think that, oh, now I've studied Tattvabodha, now I've studied Kena Upanishad, now I need to step back from Shravanam and I need to meditate upon the teaching. And I'll meditate and I'll meditate and I'll meditate and meditate, and suddenly Jnana will happen. Another category will say that forget all this, meditate upon the teaching and all. I need to attain Nirvikalpa Samadhi, because only Nirvikalpa Samadhi will digest this teaching. Until then, it is all in the mouth, but it's not gone into my stomach. So, how do I digest the teaching? Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So then there will be this kind of, so Mount Stupid has many peaks. It's not one mountain, but it's like a mountain range with multiple peaks. And there is a different kind of stupidity for every kind of beginner of Vedanta. I've had my own stupidity, which is now I understand everything. That was my stupidity. And I had misunderstood and I had not assimilated also. Both things were wrong. So then what happens is one feels, some people feel, I felt, after that, I was even less than what I started off as after a certain point. When I got humbled, when I got a few kicks in the rear when life sort of revealed to me that, oh, how little you actually know. When that happens, it's kind of like somebody's inflating your ego balloon. Because when we, one very important thing, just think about this, right? When we go to a teacher, we oftentimes go to show what we know and not learn what they have to say. That's another kind of Mount Stupid, that we are just going to present to the teacher that, oh, I have studied this and I've studied that, and we're not approaching the teacher with an open mind. And so, over time, what happens is the teacher will know how to turn the key. They know how to get under your nerves like a tactical sort of a, like an expert surgeon. They know exactly what buttons to press, but not with the intention to demean or demoralize or to cause harm, but with the intention to put us in our place, provided we have the humility to say, you know what, I was wrong. I was being an ass. I was being a little facetious about the things that I know because I really didn't. And now I'm ready to approach you with a completely clean slate. I come here with a starting capital of a big zero, an absolute zero. Fill me with whatever you have because my cup is empty. First, I came with my cup brimming with misinformation. And then, on top of that misinformation, I wanted the guru to add some more elements of knowledge. But when that cup is finally empty, then alone can I present myself as a patrak. Patrak means a receptacle in some sense, somebody who is capable of being poured into. And what is being poured into? Knowledge. That is the sambandha between a guru and a shishya. And so the descent from Mount Stupid is very painful. It comes with a lot of bruised egos, and just with as with any I guess reality check that we receive in life, this is very painful. So one knows that growth is happening to the degree that one is pained and put in their place for a good reason. Life humbles us, and oftentimes people see that humbling event as something very painful. And I can tell you this. Let me share this openly, right? Eh, some of you may remember because some of you were here. About 15 or 14 or 15 satsangs ago, there was somebody who showed up, and literally, I'm not kidding. Some of you were here, right? I asked everyone to turn their webcams on, and that person was holding a newspaper like this in front of the screen. And I just said, put the newspaper down. We're supposed to focus on what's. You're not reading a newspaper. They forgot that the thing was on, and they never showed up again. They never communicated back to me because the ego was hurt. And I've been in that position as well. When a teacher said something and my ego was hurt, and it took me 6 years to fully comprehend what happened. 6 years, or maybe 5 years, but it took me a very, very long time. And so sometimes one has to, as a teacher, one has to play the role of not an authoritarian parent, but an authoritative parent. But here, an authoritative teacher, because a teacher is in a position of authority. I cannot go and see, I'm not a teacher, but at least here, if I have something to impart, everyone who's here is approaching with an open mind. I cannot go to somebody assuming that I want to learn, but I also have something to share with them. Because the moment I turn this as a relationship of equals, what's going to happen is that the flow of knowledge will halt. Things can only flow when there's a gradient. There's a gradient descent. That's it. Either I impart something to somebody or somebody imparts something to me. But if we are exchanging it amongst equals, then there cannot be a guru shishya samvadaha. There can only be a shishya shishya vadaha. And so sometimes what people do is make the mistake that, okay, we are here to just reveal what we know, and less so to take in what is shared. And so, there's this nice quote again, it's worth quoting, that, oftentimes we listen to people to respond, not to understand. And we have to start approaching not just a guru shishya relationship, but any relationship by not keeping an answer ready at the tip of our tongue when somebody is done speaking. Because the moment an answer is ready at the tip of my tongue, it means my mind has already been filled while the person was speaking, and then my mind does not have any space for those words to enter. So the only reason I say these things is because I've committed every one of these cardinal errors multiple times. But now, I can compile a whole list of to not to do's as a student, and for what it's worth, it has helped me grow, because now I know that these are errors that I will not repeat. And that has deepened my own understanding of what a guru constitutes or comprises of. I see the guru as the embodiment of knowledge. The guru is no different from the jnana. The guru is Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti Bhagwan is Tattvamasi Mahavakya manifest in the form the of Ishvara in the form of a guru. Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namedam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. And Tattvam Veda Vachana, something like that. That shloka is there, no? Dakshinamurti Sotram. That Dakshinamurti is the very manifestation of Tattvamasi. And so that is how we have to look upon the Guru. The Guru is the embodiment of the Mahavakya. The Guru's role is to eliminate the relationship between the Guru and the Shishya ultimately by first taking on that relationship. See, this is very beautiful. Pujya Samaji explains this as Dakshinamurti Stotram towards the end, the Bhashya on Dakshinamurti Stotram. He says that every single relationship that you have with anyone in the world is maintained through the individuality that you have as the individual and as the other person that you relate to. The Guru Shishya relationship is a very special one because, in order for the Guru Shishya relationship to drop, you first need to adopt the Guru Shishya relationship. I first identify as a Shishya. I take somebody to be my Guru. Over a number of weeks, years, months, whatever is required for the knowledge to take place, at the end of that journey, the guru is no longer the guru and the shishya is no longer the shishya, because they are that one Ishvara, they are that one Brahman, they are that one Satyam Jnanam Anantam, that Sat Vastu. That is what they are. And so the guruness is also gone, the shishyaness is also gone. And yet the guru will still comport as a guru and the shishya will still comport as a shishya, because that is what keeps Vyavahara going. Which means that if there's no if here, Pujya Swamiji, being the jnani that he was, would still bow down to his gurus, knowing that there is no difference between me and the guru, and yet that is the right Vyavaharik approach. This is Ram Bhagwan would go into the forest and bow down to all the rishis in spite of being Vishnu Avatar. And the rishis would bless Ram Bhagwan as the rishis, knowing that this is again Ram Avatara who's born in the form of this human. Because one has to maintain that paddhati. So, this is a very long answer to the question, but what I mean to say is one will begin to see a shift in one's paddhati towards the guru and towards the teaching. And then that is when you know that one is ascending, up that growth curve. And that part of the journey is actually, I would say, the most beautiful part, because there's no pain involved. That was the pain has already taken place. Of course, there will be other painful events in life, but now one has actually attained a certain level of growth where this teaching will also act as a shock absorber. It starts off as a shock absorber in a relative sense, but ultimately it frees one from all suffering as the teaching is well assimilated. That is where it culminates. And it's kind of like the Gita mantra, no, where it compares the wise man's mind to the ocean. And it is full, it is brimming, it is complete. You cannot add a bucket of water to the ocean and make it bigger, because it is complete. Same way, there is no joy that you can add to a jnani's mind, because a jnani is reveling in their own swarupa. And what is greater than one swarupa? Nothing, because one swarupa is it all. So it's a steady. The growth curve is very steady, very slow, but very beautiful. And that Mount Stupid is a very sharp peak. It's a very sharp incline and a very sharp decline. In fact, I would say I don't even agree with that schematic completely. The ascent up Mount Stupid is very sharp, but the descent can be very slow as well. It may take a very long time to come down that mountain of stupidity. Some people come quickly, some people take years. I took years, so, and I'm still back on the wagon again, climbing up.
Thank you, Ji. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so let's look at giving the teacher the benefit of the doubt, which is the next topic. Shrikantji, if you want to read. My screen's not getting shared.
And see the Murti, not
Oh, okay.
document.
1 second. Now,
I still don't see it. I don't know if the others can.
I
hmm,
think it takes a while.
hmm,
Okay.
We'll just give it a couple seconds.
okay.
See.
Yeah, today for some reason I'm running into issues with my screen share.
Mm,
No, no, it should have worked. If it hasn't, then there's something wrong. Um, I guess while we deal with
What is
these,
the name of the section, Prashantji?
it's page 44, which says giving the teacher the benefit of the doubt. If you are able to share from your end, perhaps.
1 second. Let me see.
So, as you pull that up, this samarpana bhava is very important towards the guru. Samarpana means you've not surrendered one's buddhi, because the buddhi is what's required to grasp the teaching. But what one has surrendered are all of these extraneous factors which get in the way of the teaching, which is that I lay um, my ahankara at your feet. Because what Vedanta is actually doing, what the goal of Vedanta is to accomplish, is to replace the ahankara of the jiva with the ahankara of Ishvara. And what is Ishvara's ahankara over here? That there is nothing other than the self. That is the replacement therapy that one is doing. It's actually not a lot of these neo types say that you have to destroy the ahankara. That is foolish. Without the ahankara, you can't even pick up a pen. You can't even drink a glass of water. You need the ahankara to function as a living creature. But the ahankara has to be transformed. The ahankara is identifying with the non-self, and the ahankara has to identify with the sarvatma, which is nothing but the self, because there is nothing other than the self. And even this comes in stages, because one starts off by even creating the distinction between atma and atma, only to understand thereafter that there is actually no anatma, because all that there is atma. So some people approach this a little bit in a, I guess, methodical fashion. Personally, I don't like approaching it in a very linear way. I like to approach it from like multiple angles to see a broader vision. So we can discuss that as well. Are you having any luck with the document? I think you're muted.
One minute,
One
Prashantji.
minute, Prashant.
I opened the document. I'm going to share it. 1 second.
Sure.
Oh, wow. 1 second. Does the
Oh, sorry. I was just testing it out again. You can present if
Yeah,
it's.
yeah. Just give me 1 second. I did open it, and now I'm having difficulty with even seeing the document. Just 1 second.
Mhm.
Gita chapter 1 to 7.
It's on page 44.
Yeah, yeah. I found the page also. Just one
Mhm.
second.
So last time I know I mentioned that we'll read 5 pages of the Gita individually, but I forgot to send you all the copy. So if you all um, just do me a favor, just ping me your email addresses in the group chat while Shikanji pulls up the document. I have Nikita's, I have Manthan's. I don't think I have everybody else's. Shikanji, I have yours. So if you just send me your email address, I'll send you this file, and then the goal is to do 5 pages every day, and then we can discuss questions and we can quickly read through as well. Is it opening, Shikanji?
Yeah.
Acha, please go ahead, share.
Can you see it?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay. Is it big enough?
It's good enough. Please for me.
Giving the teacher the benefit of the doubt. If it looks as though the teacher is being contradictory, the student gives the benefit of doubt to the teacher. This is how we define a student. As a student, one need not take the blame upon oneself. The teacher can be asked a question. Previously, such and such was said, and now this is being said. Why this difference? You said Brahman is without qualities, nirguna, and now you say it is with qualities, saguna. How can Brahman be saguna? You say it is beyond the mind, that it is not available as an object for the mind. At the same time, you say one sees oneself, the Atma with the mind, manasa pashyati. How can one see the Atma with the mind? And how is one going to know that one is seeing the Atma? It looks as though the Shruti herself is contradictory. To say that Brahman cannot be objectified by the mind and that it has to be recognized by the mind seems to be a contradiction. But it is not a contradiction, it is perfect. If it looks like a contradiction to the student, then he or she can ask a question, a prashna. And when the student waits for the right time to ask a question, it is called a pariprashna, based on his or her faith, shraddha, in the teacher.
Yeah, I'll touch upon this a little bit.
Okay.
So when one approaches a teacher, again, this Shraddha is, and Pujya Swamiji will obviously explain it further, I'm sure, but it is trust pending understanding. That's how Pujya Swamiji puts it. I give the benefit of the doubt that the person that I'm listening to has something valuable to share, even if it goes against the grain of my own understanding. This is the Samarpanam Bhava, that I leave, just as I leave my chappals at the door outside the mandir, I leave my preconceived notions about the teachings outside the door before I approach somebody that I'm listening to. That's it. When one goes to a teacher, one either goes with the intention that I do not know, you know, I am here to learn, you are here to teach, let's begin. That is the intention. But if one goes with that, again, that full cup paradigm, nahi chalega. Cup has to be empty. Cup has to be completely scrubbed clean before it can be filled. Because even if there's a slight blemish, and I've said this in different contexts to different people also, if there's even a slight blemish of a preconceived set of ideas from an incompatible past experience or unfolding, it's going to vitiate everything else that is taught, and one is just building up on that shaky foundation. And then the growth curve, very intractable, because the mind begins to create new categories upon incomplete or contradictory categories, and that's, oh my goodness, I've seen the dangers of that. It can take years to shake away sometimes if one is not prepared. So that clean slate, empty cup paradigm is very important to remember when approaching the teacher. And one cannot also say that the good one. So he's good with puns. So one cannot say that I go to the teacher says something, and oh, but you said this before. Now you are saying this. I knew a but person once, and I told them that let's leave the buts behind for now. Let's focus on listening. These but, what does it imply? The but is like a I got you moment, right? I gotcha. पकड़ लिया तेरे को. You said this before. Now you're saying this. This doesn't make sense. That is one way to approach it. The second way, which is a better but, is that but you said this here. Now you're saying this here. I'm confused. Can you please help me understand? One is that I superimpose the confusion on the guru, that you are confused. That's why you are saying contradictory things. The better way to say is, I am confused because I perceive a contradiction which obviously is not there, because you, the guru, cannot contradict yourself because you are the guru. So clearly there's a defect in my understanding. Help me understand. That kind of but is good. I do that kind of but a lot because I know that the fault is in my understanding. Help me out, please. And the guru loves these kinds of questions because the whole Bhagavad Gita is a but. Okay, Arjuna says this throughout. The same question he'll ask in 50 different ways. But you said this here, but you're saying this here, but you're telling me that action is superior, but now you're telling me that knowledge is superior, and now you're saying that act also. I'm so confused. Please help me out. He doesn't say that, hey Krishna, you're not making sense, huh? Let's be clear. What you're saying is nonsense, and I don't know what you're saying anymore. Because then he's not a shishya. If you are in a position to judge a teacher, then where is the shishyatvam? The shishyatvam is established by me looking at myself as someone who's inquisitive, as somebody who has jignasa, as somebody who's prepared to say, I do not know. You know, teach me. Thank you, Guru. That is a relationship. So that is what is being spoken about over here. And that is what you call Shraddha. And then,
So
then we can see the next
the
one.
approach that Arjuna had towards Krishna,
Hmm.
where he says, Vyamshreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me tadekam vada nishchitya yena shreyo hamapnuyam, where he says, you're confusing me with all these, ideas that seem to be contradictory.
Hmm.
So why don't you decide one and tell me, is that the right thing? Is it more than humility? I guess is my question. Is it removing all those, the amanitvam, madambhitvam, all that stuff from your mind, and putting your shraddha in the shruti and in the guru?
Hmm.
um, is that the approach one should take, or is it just, okay, yeah, I'm just humble, I'm you are greater than me, I'm just going to listen to you, that kind of, what is the quality that we need to inculcate or develop within ourselves to do
Ah,
this?
so I think we can spend the rest of the session talking about this. So we can stop presenting the screen. Let's talk about this because you raised a very important question, and this will take a little few minutes to unfold. Yes, from the tone of Arjuna, it did sound a little accusatory, right? A little bit from the sound of it, which implies that he is not yet, just by the vachyartha, he's not yet, he's not vested complete Shraddha in Krishna yet. But one sees that gradually over the course of the Gita, that Shraddha continues to build. And so Arjuna is a role model to the extent that, yes, he said, Shishyas Teham Shadi Mam Tvam Prapannam. He's laid himself before Krishna, and he's sort of, put himself in a position by placing the Guru Krishna on a pedestal that, okay, mere ko sikhao, teach me now. But one can also see through, if one has to analyze Arjuna a little further, that Shraddha is not complete. And to be honest, most of us, all of us, not most of us, all of us don't have that complete Shraddha yet. Because just think about, if all of our Shraddha was truly, truly, truly complete, it would not take us very long to slowly wind up business. Okay, it's just a matter of fact that the Guru says Tattvamasi, Mahavakya, this is a teaching, this is the highest of all Purusharthas, this is the Meta Purushartha, Moksha. Then one's head would be on fire, just waiting for it to be put out by the cooling water of knowledge. And so we would, at the drop of a pin, we would just put many of our, files away back into the cabinet and completely commit to this Purushartha in the way that our gurus have, in the way that they have taken to a certain lifestyle. And I don't just mean giving up um, Grihastha Ashrama. I mean in the sense of giving up our giving up everything that holds us back from this teaching. And one may define it the way that they wish, right? Because different people have different contexts that they come from. But that thing hasn't happened. So similarly, one can also see that Arjuna may still have several things that need to be chiseled away for the Shishya to be better revealed. And that does happen in a progression over the course of the Gita. That Arjuna does reveal himself to be a better and better and better Shishya. But if you see like the linear path that Arjuna takes, he starts off with chapter 1 where he's ordering Krishna around. Okay, mere ko idhar le jao, mere ko udhar le jao, take me here, take me there, take me to the center of the battlefield. I want to get a look at everyone. I want to see who I'm fighting. Hey Krishna, my driver, my charioteer, come, take me where I want to go. And he's basically treating Krishna as a chauffeur of sorts. At least in the heat of the moment when he wants to get a good look at the people. Of course, he doesn't do this before, but this is kind of like Arjuna, the angry Arjuna who wants to really get into the battle mode, right? So he does that. And then he does establish that Guru Shishya relationship. But there is still some work left to be done as well. So, that is established in this teaching. But in the end, also, no, in chapter 18, he says, okay, my moha has been destroyed, and you've done it, and I will do as you say. And then what does Krishna say in the end? Uh, uh, what does it? Do as you wish. How do I forget exactly how he says it?
Yatechasi tatha kuru.
Ah, yat ichchasi tatha kuru. Do as you wish. I've taught you all of this. Wonderful Gita, 700 verses. I've taught it to you. But now do as you wish, because the Guru is not going to twist our arm to make us do something for them. And right now, some of you, like, I know, Vasu, you're attending Swaminiji's pravachans. Look at her, so gentle. She doesn't use shoulds and should nots with anyone, right? She says, okay, this is the teaching, and then, people just gravitate towards it because the Guru doesn't want anything from us. The Guru is only here to freely give and give and give and give. And we just as freely take and take and take and take. And frankly, there's no way to repay the Guru. So, to this question, how is one supposed to approach this manitvam, the dambitvam, all of these things are actually, uh, how shall we say, they are malas. They are things that get in the way. They are blockers. The psychological blockers. They are habitual blockers. They are attitudinal blockers, which get in the way of the knowledge from actually shining through. They are like, dark, gloomy clouds which prevent the sun from reaching the earth. That's what they are. And slowly, as one's Guru Bhakti, as one's, Ishvara, Pranidhanam, and all of these things grow, these dark clouds begin to disperse away. And what shines is the light of knowledge that is already self existent. It is not that somehow the Atma has to be brought from some place over here to scatter the clouds away. The sun is always shining. The Atma is always present as Aham Asmi. It is always present as, Aham Bhami. Aham Asmi, you know, Aham Asmi, Aham Bhami, Kadachina Aham Apriya, Brahmaiva Siddhanam Sachidanand Lakshanam. That is a shloka from the Advaita Makarandam. Aham Asmi, Sadabhami, always I am. Sadabhami, ever I shine. I shine as the very light of knowledge, as the very consciousness that one is. Kadachina hamapriya, I am never an object of displeasure. Because Atma is Ananda Swarupa, no? It is not that happiness is somehow gained from some object or some accomplishment or some achievement in the world. It is my own Swarupa that is manifesting in the form of happiness in the mind. So, that's why Kadachina hamapriya, I can never be the object of displeasure to myself. Brahmaiva Atha Siddhanam, Sachidananda Lakshanam. This is to be established that this Brahma is of the Lakshanam Sachidananda, that is me alone. That is the Siddham, that the thing that has to be established. So, this is the Guru Murti. The Swarupa of the Guru is the embodiment of the Sachidananda Atma. It is the physical embodiment of the Atma that reveals the Atma through the words that are taught pertaining to the Atma. So one's attitude has to be such, because now if you think about it, there is, it's like if there's a very large hall, large party is taking place, and you have to get from one end of the hall to the other end. You just bump across a lot of people along the way, but you may never reach there. It's very interesting. This is a fact, by the way. I don't have the exact numbers, but it's a fact that it takes 8 minutes for the light to reach from the sun to the earth, but it takes, I think, thousands or tens of thousands of years for that same light to reach from the nuclear fusion that's happening in the center of the sun to its surface. Because there are so many things that the photon bumps into along the way, so many particles it has to navigate through, that it takes almost forever for it just to get to the surface of the sun. But it takes only 8 minutes to get from the sun's surface to the earth. And our mind is sort of like, we are bombarding, or not bombarding, but we are rather blocking this knowledge from taking place by a bombardment of thoughts which are in contradiction to the teaching. Thoughts are not a problem. We are not neo-Vedantins, we are not neo-Advaitins, we are not Buddhists. We don't say that never mind the mind is a problem, I need to empty the mind, I need to let go of the mind. The mind is my greatest enemy because the mind gets, Arey bhai, mind is also Atma only, na? Today, what is not the Atma? The appreciation that there is nothing other than the Atma will take place in the mind only. In Samadhi, it's going to happen? No. Samadhi, now I have emptied the mind. Now my mind is empty. I have no attachments. Nobody even sends me email attachments. I am so free from attachments. What kind of nonsense is this? How can somebody think that this is going to lead to samadhi or to jnanam? So this is, all a big mess. Now, there's one friend of ours, Chris Almond. He is a wonderful guy, and we have a very long history. This was I guess in my Mount Stupid days, we had a long history of arguing with people on the internet. Both me and Chris would like team up. We would like sort of tag team and defeat a lot of people who were trying to undermine the spirit and the teaching of Advaita. So there's a nice takedown that Chris did recently, which is worth sharing really. So there's one guy who says that I don't believe that jnana is exclusive to Shruti Vakya. I think that one can become a jnani even through samadhi. So Chris had a very nice response to this guy. Okay, he said that look, if samadhi were sufficient, then how could the Patanjali Yoga and Darshana lead to the conclusion that there are multiple Atmas? Boom, that's a mic drop moment. Because if samadhi were enough to give knowledge, then how could you all be so deluded by coming up with the wrong conclusion and creating a whole new darshana for it? The fact that the conclusion is not the same as Advaita Vedanta, which is, the Uttar Mimamsa, is a direct indication that one is still living in a state of complete ignorance. That's it. So Pujya Swamiji makes it very beautiful. Greatest teacher who's lived in a very long time. Amazing. He says there is no need to destroy the mind. There is no need to empty the mind. Allow yourself to wander in the garden of Ishvara in the form of thoughts. The mind is like the garden of Ishvara, and every single thought is a flower, it's a fruit, it's a tree, it's a shrub, it's a herb, it's a leaf, it's a cloud. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful, horizon that stretches endlessly. And that is what the mind is. And this is the garden of Ishvara. Allow oneself to wander there. Don't try to destroy that garden. Don't try to eliminate it. Allow, because it is not different from Bhagavan. It is you alone. It is nothing but Ishvara. But this whole complete nonsense about eliminating the mind, and then this has been further, I suppose, emphasized by the Jainas and the Bauddhas. They've, I don't know what kind of khichdi they've cooked, but this has somehow seeped into the Hindu consciousness as well. And sorry to say, but it did not help that folks like Vivekananda and the students of Ramana Maharshi, for whatever students he had and others, added to this complete delusion, confusion. That's not how Vedanta is taught. And so what Pujya Swamiji does, he is, to I guess I was going to say conduct. He cuts through the nonsense, to put it a bit more politely, and he gets to the root of it, and he takes us back to Shankara Bhashya, because something transpired between the time of Adi Shankaracharya and the present day Vedanta people, and a lot of people came in between, and they created a complete mess of the teaching. And what Pujya Swamiji does is he points us back. Okay, you know what? Let's start again from the source that we can truly, truly, truly trust. Let's go back to Adi Shankaracharya. Let's look at what he had to say in the Bhashyas. And Pujya Swamiji is unabashedly committed to the teachings of Shankaracharya, because they are the clearest exposition of Advaita Vedanta that one can ever find anywhere. So he takes us back there. Now, that is also to imply that not everybody who interprets Shankara Bhashya also does so faithfully. That's another, thing that one can talk about. But any thoughts here? Okay.
So it seems like initially in the first chapter, when Arjuna is still treating Krishna as a close buddy who's who's going to help him win the war, orders him around, and then at the end of first chapter, Arjuna is completely despondent. It's kind of like, oh, I'm about to give up now, right? Having seen all these gurus and relatives that I'm supposed to fight and kill, And then Krishna in the second chapter, he kind of throws some advanced truth bombs, so to speak. And then Arjuna is then he's like, maybe he wanted like a quick fix for his grief, and he's like, oh, don't confuse me with all these things, and just can you just help me get out of this. You're my friend, don't even though he says shishyasteham shadi mam tvam prapannam in the second chapter, right? Is i- and then over gradual, so would it be right to say that he had to give up his ego investment in ideas and his conditioning from the past, and become humble, become start gathering all these values, and then he saw Krishna as Ishvara Swarupa or Vishwarupa Darshanam and all that stuff, and then finally he gets his realization. So is that the lesson to take from this, to imbibe the qualities that Arjuna gradually gathered?
Absolutely, yeah. And the lesson is not just to do as Arjuna did, but also to figure out ways where one may avoid some of the mishaps that Arjuna had to face over the course of the Gita. Could he have phrased things a little differently? Perhaps, yeah. And so this gives us a very good outlook. In fact, I would say, um, even if you look at the Chandogya Upanishad, the Samvadaha there starts off a little rough, right? Like between Uddalaka and Shvetaketu. Shvetaketu, what does he say? That when his father and teacher is asking him that, did you learn that, knowing which everything is known, something along those lines. कि वो सबसे उत्तम विद्या तुमने क्या प्राप्त की है कि नहीं, something like that, right? So he says, I didn't, but if my teacher knew, they would have probably taught it to me. So see this arrogance. But the way Swamiji explains this very nice. No? She says, he was, fresh college grad. He's come home from grad school. Then suddenly he thinks that he's the king of the world. He's popping his collar. That, oh, look how smart and educated I am. I know everything. I know how everything works. I use TikTok. I'm so cool. All of these things, right? This is this kind of person. So he comes home and then, of course, my father, he didn't even go to college. Look at him. That kind of thing. So, of course, I'm exaggerating. But then finally, or rather, what is the right approach here? Instead of thinking that maybe my teacher did not impart this to me because I was not an adhikari for the knowledge, I was not a good recipient, and therefore the teacher did not deem it fit to unfold it to me. The guy says, if my teacher knew, he would have taught to me. My teacher probably didn't know. So that is arrogance, right? And then, of course, he humbles himself, I suppose, and through some exposure of his father also, that humility is gained. And this whole Tattvamasi Mahavakya is actually taught in this dialogue between Uddalaka and Shvetaketu. And 6 times he explains Tattvamasi using 6 different examples: pot and clay, gold and jewelry, few other examples he uses. And so all of these examples again, point towards the Mahavakya. So, one can learn from Arjuna to the extent that Arjuna presented himself as an ideal Shishya. And in the places where Arjuna showed a little bit of roughness, one can also refine one's own approach that, okay, maybe Arjuna could have approached this a little better. Because, even if you understand the psychology, what was he facing? He was in the middle of a battlefield. He was fighting for his kingdom. He was fighting for his life. He was fighting for the ones he loved. And, maybe there was a little bit of rush. He may have been in a bit of a rush. And look, right now I just want to get to a calm state of mind where I can understand. But it took a while for him to fully appreciate that the teaching cannot be rushed. The student may be in a rush, but the teaching cannot be rushed because the teaching has to be unfolded. And how quickly does the teaching get unfolded? The quickness or the slowness of the teaching is dependent upon the readiness or the unpreparedness of the student. If I'm prepared, teaching doesn't happen slowly, it will happen very quickly. Huh. Yeah, Arjuna, Tattvamasi. Oh, really? Okay, thank you. Perfect. Got it. Got it. But then that Tattvamasi, how many of us can just get away with it? No, we can't. We need that whole exposition. We need to understand. For some people, it is enough. See, for the rishis who studied with Dakshinamurti Bhagwan, Bhagwan ने क्या किया दक्षिणामूर्ति भगवान ने? He did this. He just showed the Chinmudra. कि ईश्वरा जीवास तत्वमसि. This is Mahavakya. For some people, that is enough. Some people, matlab, 1 out of a billion, okay? Basically, you have to be a rishi for that to be enough. For the rest of us, we have to study Shankara Bhashya based on the teachings of the Gurus. That doesn't mean that some people are, I've met such people. I want to learn Sanskrit. I don't want to study Vedanta right now. Why? I want to study Shankara Bhashya. But you can listen to teachers who teach. No, no. I want to study it on my own. Why? Because that will be the purest interpretation. I don't want to rely on somebody else's interpretation. Arey bhai, what you study in Shankara Bhashya is going to get interpreted here ke nahi? Now, do you rely on this interpretation or do you rely on the Guru's interpretation? You tell me. So, such people I've encountered. Thankfully, I have never been an academic in my life. I never want to be an academic. I just want to study the teachings from. So, yeah. And that is another ego no, of a kind that I can understand on my own. Why do I need the Guru? Then try, come back in the next life, then maybe you'll find a Guru. What else can you say? The Guru is only going to decide, no, ki this is working for you or not. Today, if your child comes to you, do you allow the child to figure out whether they understand calculus or not at the age of 10? No. You have to teach them, na, ki, "Arey bhai, pehle ye derivation karo. This is how you derive. Don't drink and derive." Calculus, integration, all of these things you have to teach. See, I did that. No, Vasu, not bad. He's proud of me. Um, so, no, all of these things you have to. There's a paddhati to teach maths also. There's a paddhati to teach any subject. You don't suddenly start with advanced knowledge. Aham brahmasmi. I'm not joking. Okay, this is not to offend anyone. One family member, 2009. Huh? Brilliant, amazing. This was. I was completely new to Sanatana Dharma. In fact, I had never heard of the word Vedanta before. And then suddenly this one uncle, he tells me, he comes into the room like this, Aham Brahmasmi. So I'm like, say that again? Aham Brahmasmi. I'm like, what is that? He said, this is the greatest mantra in the world. Aham Brahmasmi. Just keep saying Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi. It is the greatest teaching. Thank you. I have better things to do. Because I don't know what Aham means. I don't know what Brahma means. I don't know what Asmi means. Every Mahavakya is an equation. An equation requires two things to be connected together. Asmi is the connection. Aham is the Tvampada. Brahma is the Tatpada. There has to be an equation between the two. Tattvamasi, equation. Prajnanam Brahma, equation. I am Atma Brahma, equation. All of these things are equations. A Mahavakya is presented in the form of an equation. To understand that equation, I need to know what the left hand side means. I need to understand what the right hand side means. And I need to understand what that equal to also means. I have to. It's not easy. You tell a 1-year-old that 5 plus 4 equals 10 minus 1, and you write that on a piece of paper, they will laugh at you. Puja Samji explains this. He says 5 plus 4 and 10 plus 1 are the same. 9 equals 9. But if you just look at the lipi, 5 plus 4 looks very different from 10 minus 1. Jiva looks very different from Ishvara. Atma looks very different from Brahman. We are comparing two things which we consider conceptually very different. How are they the same? Let's understand that. So suddenly, to a complete fresher who has no understanding what is Vedanta, I have not heard the word before. And you come and tell that boy, Aham Brahmasmi, greatest thing. And not just to understand, but to repeat it like a mantra. Can you repeat 5 plus 4 equals 10 minus 1 without knowing what they mean? You can't. It's ridiculous. So then there's a whole category of students also who think, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? I'll keep asking this question to the dumb person that I am. And that same dumb person that I am has to give an answer to the dumb person who's asking the question, expecting that the answer will be smart. How can that happen? If I don't know, I have to get the knowledge from somebody else. Who is that somebody else? Guru. So this asking the question to oneself is not going to give the right answer. Working on this process of self-study is truly not, the self-study here is not studying by myself. It is a study of the self. And the study of the self has to be done with the teacher. So happy Guru Purnima. May everyone be blessed and have a very rewarding journey in this beautiful, beautiful tapestry of Ishvara that Bhagavan has woven for us. So, see you all next week. And okay, before your leave, let me just assign the reading material. Send me your email addresses. I haven't received anyone's email addresses. And let me stop the recording 1 second. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om